most recently, a fifth old god was over officially confirmed, and a new 10.0.7 data mine document talks about what the Titans had been hiding and of a place that lies beyond the waves. Now, one of the oldest speculations is in regards to this dark side of Azeroth where sailors go to a place of no return. We know the Titans have employed various cloaking mechanisms over the years to hide entire zones, with most recently the obvious Dragon Isles, and apparently they couldn't contain and reshape the planet as we had previously believed and as we were previously told. So what is this place that lies beyond the waves? Could this be Avaloran, or could we be near the discovery of a remnant of the ancient Azeroth Black Empire on the dark side of the planet? Right now, GameEvo has some amazing sales, which you can check out with my link in the description. You can get The Witcher, anything Warcraft related, gift cards, and a bunch of games at really amazing prices. Best of all, if you use my code DORON, you can add an additional discount as well. So make sure to click my link in the description and check out GameEvo and get some really great deals. As you may be aware, in 10.0.7 in Forbidden Reach, a crazy new document was data mined. It is essentially the same Titan lore of the old gods and the creation of Azeroth back from vanilla, but this one is annotated by some type of an old god being for Neltharion's private library that we still don't really know who this person is. You can check out all the pages, I've covered it in the previous video. One of the biggest news is that it could be the official confirmation that a fifth old god exists. However, in this video, I wanted to really deep dive into possibly the most interesting one, and that is the page that talks about this supposed what lies beyond the waves, which could obviously be a heavy hint for a new continent that we are yet to discover, possibly old god related. If you guys have been playing WoW, and I'm guessing most of you have for a long time, you might know that the supposed other side of Azeroth is one of the biggest and one of the oldest speculations that we've had pretty much since vanilla. There were hints that a place exists that is not yet seen on the map, and how ships go to one side of the planet but they disappeared, which hinted that there is some sort of a dark side of Azeroth that we know nothing about, that no one goes there, and anyone that visits it is unable to return, so he's unable to say anything. People have speculated this to be the next expansion for the longest time, and Blizzard sort of did a half thing by introducing some of these hidden isles. However, with this new lore, this might be right back on the table. So do not go crazy in speculations and history, let us just dig deep into this document and see what it says exactly. The Titans empowered a number of races to help them fashion the world, to help them carve out the fathomless caverns beneath the earth. The Titans created a dwarf-like earthen from magical living stone. To help them dredge out the seas and lift the land from the seafloor, the Titans created the immense but gentle sea giants. For many ages, the Titans moved and shaped the earth until at last there remained one perfect continent. Now, the note that is scribbled on the page says, "The author of this tome is either a fool or a liar. Were they truly so ignorant of that which lies beyond the waves, or were they merely commanded to spread Titan propaganda?" So let's really dig deep into this to see what they're trying to say. To give some further context, one of the first pages talks about how the Pantheon fought and chained 5 evil gods far beneath the world, and how they banished the elementals into their own plane. The note on that page says, "Fools, the powers of the elements was not so easily contained, nor could they bind the influence of the old gods. The peace the Titans offered came only through oppression." Now, obviously, this heavily hints that it is very likely that the old god prisons and the elemental prisons are not exactly what we think they are. Now, my first thought when I read this beyond the waves was N'Zoth, because we know his prison was beneath the sea, and N'Zoth is currently super relevant in Dragonflight with brand new whispers that Steve Denuser personally wrote. However, I really don't think they would use the word beyond in writing in this exact context. Beyond means more like after you pass the waves, while for N'Zoth, they would definitely be talking about underneath the waves, beneath the waves, if this was in regards to some hidden empire N'Zoth built under the sea that we are yet to discover. Now, a second interesting other point to this, that people think this refers to the Dragon Isles, and I gotta say, this does make some sense. When we look at the original map of Ordered Azeroth from the Chronicle, the Dragon Isles were not there, they were hidden from our knowledge, and it was confirmed that they were isles back when Azeroth was one continent. If this was written for common mortals, they might not have wanted them to know about the Dragon Isles, but I really don't see why this would be a huge note in Altarian's book. I mean, you guys have been to the Dragon Isles, you can see they are Dragon Isles with a dragon civilization on it. Titan facilities are here, they have their own army here, so it's definitely not something that is hidden in any way beyond the waves. Plus, a ton of mortals also live there, like Centaur apparently reached this land from somewhere else. I really don't see why they would be hiding this, or why this would be some sort of a secret, especially in a document that was found right on the Dragon Isle. So in my opinion, this more than likely either refers to a dark side of Azeroth, a new zone, or a new continent. This entire document talks about how the Titans found this mess of a world that was the Black Empire, just evil. They defeated the old gods, then they created massive beings that would work like machines, and they would shape seas, they would shape rivers, mountains, and all the terrain in order to create Azeroth as it is. We have the last page of the document that kind of goes hand in hand with this. As twilight fell on the final day of their labors, the Titans named the continent Kalimdor, Land of Eternal Starlight. Now, the note on this says, yes, the Titans finally erased the wonders that once existed. They even stole away the land's true name and replaced it with one of their own. Now, the obvious fact that the guy writing this is obviously, Titan biased and old god affiliated aside, this strongly indicates that the Titans not only significantly reshaped the land and made huge structural changes to it, but they also completely renamed the place as well. Now, the thing is though, I don't think this was actually technically fully possible, and the Titans didn't want us to know that fact. The old gods have kinda dug themselves permanently, and not all of Azeroth was probably moldable. We know they purposefully hid this when we learned that the Wall of Eternity was a wound that the Titans created, but they kinda played it off that this was just a lake of energies that existed. Even one of the pages in this document references this. This is also why the old gods weren't just outright eliminated, but instead they had to be imprisoned. As we had recently learned, they tried to learn about the nature and the decay magic and just how the old gods work, and they ended up creating a Hoon, and they realized it's just impossible to get rid of these guys. So if we go by this logic, why do we think they were able to restructure the entire landmass? And what if instead there was a part of the Black Empire that was not moldable and it just had to be hidden away? There was nothing else they could do. In fact, we know that there are multiple cloaking mechanisms, and we can see this on multiple occasions where entire continents were hidden. For example, most recently the Dragon Isles. So by the current lore, it is 100% plausible that they hid this part of the Black Empire as they couldn't actually reshape it. In fact, this could maybe even be the prison or the place where we might discover this fifth evil that we could just recently learn about. This also ties in perfectly with the theory of how ships go and disappear on one side of Azeroth. They might have reached this place and were just drawn in by the magical cloaking mechanism. Now, one of the theories is that this could be the newly introduced, newly learned zone called Avaloran. Most recently, we learned that a group of Titanforged rebelled for an unknown reason, and the Titan Keepers sent multiple expeditions to unsuccessfully bring them in line, and as far as we know, they are just dug in somewhere. It is possible that, much like Neltharion, who was a Titan minion, so did these guys, learned about this, decided they no longer want to partake in this hiding and this entire Titan ploy. Now, of course, it is entirely possible also that Avaloran could be an underground zone that we might be going to soon. However, at the moment, if this really is a new continent or a new zone, I feel like either it is going to be content for Dragonflight or for the next expansion, and at the moment, both options actually seem very likely. So, as you may know by the roadmap, we are supposed to get 2 new zones in Dragonflight. Seeing that we essentially explore the entirety of the Dragon Isles, you can kinda guess what this can be. One of the biggest hints that was once again recently confirmed is that we're supposed to go somewhere underground in the next patch. However, there should be one more zone in 10.2, which could literally be this hidden place that we might learn about from Deathwing's private library. On the other hand, this could be the Dark Side of Azeroth expansion, and it could be a very natural transition from Dragonflight to the next expansion. As you might know, Blizzard recently said they want expansions to add onto one another instead of having one threat every single expansion, so it is entirely possible we learn about this, we discover a way to remove this cloaking mechanism, and finally we find a way into this hidden dark side of Azeroth. So this could be a short-term setup for a patch or a long-term setup for the next expansion. However, I do think if there really is a lot more to this beyond the waves than a simple line in a book, this could just open a whole set of new possibilities. We could discover primordial Azeroth and what it really was like in the past. We could discover a fifth old god. We could discover just a whole bunch of crazy things that could lead the lore into some really interesting places. Thank you for watching. Check out all the pages and info by clicking on the screen, and check out the Notes Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.